Welcome, new listeners, returning listeners, and long-time listeners, whoever you are and wherever you are from. I'm glad you are here. I am Dr. David Hopkins, humanities professor and your host and guide through the Intellectual Freedom Podcast, where we take culture, politics, literature, philosophy, and everything in between if it pertains to you, elevating yourself, your mind, your understanding, and your intellect. That's what we are all about here. And I've been hinting at this series now for a while, and we're here. There are very few books in the history of the human species that change you if you really engage with it. And The Republic is one of them. It's not entertainment. It's a transformation. And if you let it, it will make you dangerous in the best way a human can be dangerous. It will make you dangerous intellectually. Unlike the algorithm feeds with 45-second takes and outrage loops and skinny pseudo think pieces so safe and intellectually devoid of reason that they come with a trigger warning stickers and corporate sponsors, our media, and sadly the industrial education complex isn't trying to transform you. It's trying to make you never become self-aware at all. But Plato's Republic is a rock solid must read, period, end of story. And I know that's a very big claim that I'm making, but I would like you just to hear me out from the outset. I'm not going to lie. This book is dense. It requires focused attention and often the need to reread sections just to get it. In preparation for this series, I've reread the entirety of the book and even going back through it. It's work for me. And I'm pretty familiar with the content, but I can tell you the message, the stories, the concepts, they are fundamental to your life and becoming the most well-rounded and well-informed humans in the world, because so few people have the capacity in our rush modern world to just slow down and understand this crazy machine we are in. In short, this book and the concepts that we're going to talk about can, should, and will be transformational for you if you will just simply invest the time. The Republic is kind of like a spiritual gym session for your brain. And if you let it, it'll make you dangerous, make you hard to manipulate, hard to confuse, hard to buy off, hard to pacify. And in a world that profits from keeping people mentally limp, that's reason enough to read this book. But let me not get so far ahead of myself here. I want to take a step back just for one brief little second, because I need to build the case, the real case for why we're doing this series at all. You know, it's funny, and I was in a coffee shop the other day. I was reading Plato. As I said, I'm rereading everything in this book for this podcast. And a guy comes up to me and he says, obviously, someone who is very well read and articulate, and he says, "Is that the real Plato? The Real Republic by Plato?" That's not an easy read. And I talked to him for a while about the book, how I'm doing a podcast series on it. And, in full transparency, he said, "Wow, that book is dense." And he's absolutely right. The book is incredibly dense. And I even paused about whether I should do this series, because sometimes it can feel a little bit overwhelming. And I want to challenge all of you, but not overwhelm you, because heck, Plato can overwhelm me in a good way, in a challenging way. And I say all this to just make everyone aware. Plato and the Republic, these topics they're for the deep end of the swimming pool. And part of me worries I'm biting off more than I can chew just to do justice in a podcast episodes on this topic. But you and I, are going to give it a shot and take this thing on in a way to make it work for everyone. And I do mean everyone, high school student, college educated, no college. I promise you, you will, let me say this a third time, you will get this. So this episode today has one goal. It's sort of just to unlock the door to Plato as a person, give you just a brief taste of his teachings so you can pass through the entryway and begin this journey on one of the hardest, most rewarding intellectual journeys I believe that you can possibly take. So if you got through college and you got a degree and you never read The Republic, or if you're just someone trying to become self-aware and self-educated, I challenge you, this one book right here might be the one that will catapult you forward. So let's get into it. Let me put this bluntly. If you care about things like truth, justice, freedom, leadership, or even just becoming a better thinker, a better parent, a better partner, a better human being, you need Plato, period. The Republic isn't just a book. It is the book, the cornerstone of Western philosophy, the foundational text of political theory, the original blueprint for education, the psychological map of the soul, the philosophical backbone behind every major debate that we still have today. People think Plato and imagine marble statues, a dead language, snooty academics. No way, no how. Plato is the guy who looked at human nature with such clarity, such brutal honesty, that his insights still, they pack a punch like a heavyweight over 2,400 years later. This is not ancient trivia. This is not archaeology. This is an operating system behind the Western mind. And if you want to really understand the world you're living in and the world inside you, you go to Plato. And you probably don't even realize that you're going there. Philosophers go to Plato. Artists go to Plato. Politicians go to Plato. Well, at least the intellectually sound politicians, they have in the past gone to Plato. I'm not vouching for most of these crazed ideological lunatics in Washington, D.C. or around the globe today, but that's another topic for another day. I mean, for generations, Plato has been the man in building our political philosophy in the West. It's undeniable, and his fingerprints are everywhere. So I want to argue kind of like a lawyer. I'm a humanities guy, but today I'm going to put on the lawyer suit, because I need to defend this sort of like a case in court. So let's bring in our witnesses. I'm just going to bring up some heavyweight thinkers. Some of them you've definitely heard of, others you may not have, but in the world of academia, in the world of philosophy, these are some pretty important people. So Martha Nussbaum from the University of Chicago said she's one of the greatest living moral philosophers that we have. She says, if you want to talk about justice, you start with Plato. Everyone else is a footnote to this book. Alan Bloom, maybe one of the most well-known, famous philosophers, literary figures. He translated you could probably say the most influential English edition of the Republic. He wrote Western Philosophy. There's a series of footnotes to Plato. That's not hype. That's lineage. And Julia Annis, University of Arizona, world-class Plato scholar, explains that Plato created the first real method of asking, what is justice? What is truth? What is knowledge? Now, if those aren't huge questions, I don't know what is. That method built Western philosophy. A.E. Taylor from Oxford University says, no philosophical work has had a greater influence. Think about that. Not one of the big ones, the big one. Cicero, ancient Roman, says if Jupiter were to speak, he would speak like Plato. Translation, Plato's mind was the gold standard from a very, very early time. These are not YouTubers doing hot takes. These are some of the most brilliant minds that we have seen. And they're all pointing to the same book, The Republic by Plato. And look, we all know how this works. You are what you think. You become like the people you hang around. So when you actually step into this dialogue, when you wrestle with Plato, page after page, argument after argument, you're not just reading a text. You're pulling up a chair at the table with the A-listers of deep thought. That's the company you keep when you open the Republic. It's not some timeline on a social media. It's not the takes. It's not the algorithm's flavor of the week. You're hanging out with the heaviest hitters in the history of the human intellect. And trust me, they don't leave you the same. Okay, and you might be asking even right now, like, what did Plato actually invent? Because I've been throwing around big terms, big claims here. So let me break this down without any academic fog or academic speed, because Plato gave us several things we still use every single day. Political philosophy, number one. Before Plato, politics was tradition. It was family loyalty. It was tribal instincts. But after Plato, politics became reasoned inquiry into things like justice, power, ethics, good, and then what is a good life. He invented the discipline. The distinction between knowledge and opinion. Wow, this is a huge one. Plato said opinion is not knowledge. What a simple sentence, right? Opinion is not knowledge, but it's so profound. And when you absorb it, rework it, rehash it in so many ways by future generations, I mean, think about it. Opinion is not knowledge. Boom. There's your entire scientific method. There's every courtroom. There's every debate worth having. I mean, this alone, I could go on for hours. Easy. But for now, let's just leave it there. I mean, I'm sure you can kind of get the drift of it. Another thing he came up with, a theory of objective truth. Plato said truth is not whatever we feel. Justice is not whatever we vote on. Goodness is not a trend. And that concept built things like ethics, mathematics, law, education, the very idea that truth matters. Talked about the model of what the human psyche. Plato gives us the rational, spirited parts of the soul, and he's the ancestor of Freud's ego, superego, and id. You can literally map psychology onto Plato. The purpose of education, he says education isn't job training, it's soul training. Teaches you how to think, how to desire, how to judge reality. Oh boy, we will get into this one. What actually is the purpose of education? If you think it's a piece of paper to hang on your mantle, spoiler alert, it's not. And well, in this post-AI age, that might become more real and tangible than we've ever seen. A foundational cataclysmic shift. Another one, the allegory of the cave. Oh my God, I mean, I can't wait to get into the allegory of the cave. I've lectured on this allegory for 20 plus years in college, and I'm not sure there is anything more definitive, true, and perfectly articulated than the allegory of the cave. I just can't wait to get into this, but really, this one metaphor brings forward, if you saw and loved, Keanu Reeves and the movie The Matrix, man, we will draw some parallels from the cave to modern film here that I think will blow you away. Plato, in the allegory of the cave, gets into things like awakening yourself, propaganda. What is propaganda? What is illusion? What's it mean to be enlightened? What is indoctrination do to you? And how does it happen? And how do you pursue a journey to truth and fulfillment in life? I mean, it's amazing. I mean, you can't unsee this allegory after we read through the section on that. You'll 100% get this one. It will hit like a ton of bricks in your life and change how you see things literally and intellectually. It just will. The domino effect, the Republic doesn't end there. How Plato kind of built the West. Let's name and give specifics here, like Aristotle's ethics, virtuous habit, is a response to Plato. His politics, direct reaction to the Republic. He only exists because Plato trained him for years. Augustine, when Augustine talks about the inner light, he's channeling Plato's form of the good. He Christianized Plato. Thomas Aquinas, his hierarchy of being, his metaphysics, a Platonic skeleton, Catholic skin. Nietzsche's entire career is a fist fight with Plato. He isn't ignoring Plato. He's obsessed with defeating him. The American founders, Madison's concern about factions, Plato. The mixed regime, Plato. The belief that education is necessary for liberty, Plato. Psychology, already mentioned Freud. Freud's model of the mind is a remix of Plato. Carl Jung, entirely Platonic. This is not vague influence. This is direct, documented inheritance. So imagine the 2400 BC-ish. He influences early Christianity all the way to the existential atheists. He hits the politicians from every angle and psychologists. I mean, when I say the guy is a cornerstone, I mean it. And hey, to read him, you need thick skin. And somewhere along reading The Republic, he's going to tick you off. And if he doesn't, you probably didn't even read him right. But let's talk about Plato just as an actual human being, because sometimes we lose track of that when we look at literature, we look at history and philosophy, because before we dive into his ideas, we need to know this man, and he lived a real life with real pain, real trauma, real stakes, and I hate the over sentimentalizing of people. He was a real dude and a real guy. So yeah, he was born into privilege. He came from a wealthier family around roughly 427 BCE, aristocratic family surrounded by statesmen and thinkers. He grew up with smart and powerful people all around him and his family. This doesn't detract from his teachings. In fact, it adds incredible depth of understanding because he was around the power side of things. Let me just sidebar for 1 second here. You know, I love Reddit. Love that world of hot takes. I do. I actually try to keep up at least as best I can. But let's be real. I love in a comical way on social media like Reddit, people who say they got things figured out way better than Elon Musk. And the only reason he's the richest man in the history of the world is he was born of privilege, and they would actually know how to run a multi-billion-dollar company simultaneously way better than Elon Musk can figure it out. Or the people that are in the brain of Donald Trump, they know exactly what he's all up to and what he's going to do and what he's thinking. And heck, it's really easy just to solve the Russia-Ukraine situation with ease. All you got to do is X, Y, or Z. And they say all this from their Dell computer sipping a latte in Starbucks. Come on now. Come on. You don't run in those circles. Neither do I. And if we did, if you did, you probably wouldn't be listening to this anyway. But Plato grew up around the seats of power. It's a very important thing because he was around very intelligent, very influential, and very important people all the time. He saw how they acted, he saw what they thought, saw how they behaved. It's a very important distinction considering the depth and complexity of the book, The Republic. But Plato didn't have it easy. Let's make it really clear. He grew up in a very volatile era. So yeah, he was privileged, but that doesn't mean life was easy. Heck, he lived in a time of war, of plague, of political collapse, of executions. He never really knew true stability in his life. He knew a whole lot of chaos, and being a member of the aristocracy during intense war, combat, upheaval, well, let's just say there was no such thing as a Geneva Convention, and the losers, male, female, children, entire bloodlines could be executed when they found themselves on the losing side. So Plato, he fought in 3 actual battles. He was not some bookworm in an ivory tower. He fought as a hoplite with a spear and a shield in the front lines. He knew the pain, the horror, the smell of death in combat. He was actually a very accomplished hoplite. And Plato also, student of Socrates. He didn't invent Socrates. He lost him. He was a student, he was a follower, and my guess, he probably deeply loved him. The quote-unquote democracy of the time had his teacher put to death. I can't fathom how that impacted him. But in this case, trauma shaped his genius. He was a traveler and a learner. He made it as far as Egypt and Sicily and Italy. He absorbed mathematical thought, religious ideas, political theories. He was the founder of the first university in world history. It lasted almost 900 years. Do you catch that? 900 years. He founded the very first university in the world. Or if you want to argue it, maybe the first in Western European history. Either way, pretty damn impressive. It's not a statue. He's a remarkable human. His life was dramatic. It was painful. It was eventful. And it was filled to overflowing. And we get the privilege of learning directly from him. So, what the Republic is and what it isn't. It's not a literal utopia. It's not an authoritarian how-to manual. It's not some prophecy. It's not meant to be implemented exactly as written, obviously. It's not a religious text. It's not a quirky historical artifact. Here's what I think the Republic is and why it's just so powerful. It's a mirror for your soul. It's a psychological strengthening program. It's a method for thinking clearly, building an argument clearly, critique of weak leadership, a warning about human vulnerability, a call to intellectual adulthood and putting down childish, simplistic thoughts when you are no longer a child, a blueprint for inner freedom. Plato isn't trying to build a government. He's trying to build a human being. Oh, okay, and I have to sidebar here. You know I do this every once in a while. This sidebar is for the snooty, self-taught intellectuals and professors in the ivory tower. I mean, there's been thousands upon thousands of pages written about the Republic, and the people who claim to have the definitive answer of what the Republic is or is not call anything or anyone who talks of Plato's Republic that doesn't align with their perception as blasphemy and ignorance, and who tend to rant and rave like a stupid CNN or Fox News panel that blather on condescendingly. With all due respect, if anyone listening is one of those people right now, I would just recommend turn it off. Because in my very, very humble opinion, your 10,000% certainty about what the Republic is or isn't is exactly the opposite of what Plato, Socrates, this book should inspire. And if you don't like it, well, sorry, I don't care. Okay, end the rant. Back to you. Yes, you, and why you need this book. Let's get raw and personal. Because human nature has not changed. We like to, yes, technology has changed. Yes, the world is vastly different than anything that Plato could have ever even fathomed. That is true. But humanity, being a human being, has not changed. We're still vulnerable to things like manipulation, tribalism, extreme pleasure, distraction, flattery, fear, ego, ideology, certain addictions. Technology did not create these weaknesses. In many respects, they have turbocharged some of these weaknesses. But Plato saw the root problem, the root problems of being a human being, and he speaks to you about those. Humans love comfort more than they do truth. And that's why this is important, because without philosophy, you become extremely vulnerable to being governed, to be controlled. Because if you can't tell truth from illusion, you're easy to control. If you can't control your own desires, somebody else is going to do it. So reading Plato builds kind of an inner fortress for you for all the craziness that's going on around us in our modern world. And this book can help strengthen things like your discipline, your clarity, your courage, humility, intellectual resilience, freedom of mind, because justice isn't abstract. It's you. It's you and how your perceptions of the world evolve, change, and shape you. And Plato even says the just soul is the well-ordered soul. So all of justice starts inside of you. Your self-control is controlled by you, your priorities, your habits, your decisions, your desires, your truthfulness. So understanding justice, which is a fixation in this book, is literally like holding a mirror up to yourself. So how do you read this? Let me give you an honest guide and some things that I've learned reading Plato and the Republic, and I've seen students struggle with. Number one, just expect that it's going to be hard. If you're confused, congratulations, you're alive. There's going to be parts that are challenging. So just go into it with that. Number two, read slowly. We're always in this rush to scan, to get summary, to do it quickly. I want you to build mental muscle. You need to read slowly. If you struggle like I do, I don't have the capacity to read for hours on end. My mind anymore just can't do that like maybe it used to. Read it in 10 to 20 minute increments. Focus on really understanding it, not just getting through it. The third thing, focus on the characters inside of the book. The dialogue, I think, is much easier to digest when you get to know the personalities. And 4, don't chase after every single nuance. I know students who read and they will highlight almost 80% of the book. My goodness, these dialogues, they can get hard to follow. And you could think everything is important, and you lose the you can't see your way through from the forest through the trees. And if you're new to the Socratic dialogue style, it's especially challenging. But remember, it is a conversation. So just read it. Catch as much as you can. It's a conversation. You can always go back, but don't think you have to get every single piece of the conversation as you're going through it on a first pass. Take notes. Ask yourself the questions Socrates asked. And then 6, let yourself change. When the book frustrates you, that's a good thing. Sort of the point. Growth begins in discomfort, not in understanding everything at the first chance. Can't prep you enough that you're going to feel at times like you just can't get it. But how about this? Let's just buck that trend of stopping something when it gets uncomfortable and hard and difficult, and just keep reading. Keep trying. Even when you don't get it all, just keep going, because something crazy starts to happen when you read these dialogues. You're going to start to hit a point where more and more and more starts to click. As you get into the way he writes and the conversations and the way the arguments get built, you're going to start to retain more and more. Just let it happen. Let it happen naturally. So let me speak directly to you, the person listening right now. This book is not for pure entertainment. It's not entertainment, but it has a deep and profound feeling of success when you get through it. You could have chosen anything to listen to, but you chose this 2,400-year-old philosophical text voluntarily. Are you crazy? Yeah. You probably are, just a little bit, but you're not like the average person. If you are this deep and still going, tells me something about you. It tells me you want clarity, you want depth and strength. It tells me you want to think, what you really want to think. And I'm telling you, you can do this. You're capable of more than you realize. This book will challenge you. It's going to annoy you. It's going to confuse you, and it's going to humble you. But if you stay with it, if you lean into the struggle, Plato's going to give you something you can't get anywhere else. You're going to get an ordered mind, a strengthened soul, a deeper life. Because this series is not about Plato. In the end of the day, it's about you and your mind, your freedom, your inner world. Oh, and plus going through this, I mean, you get some intellectual bragging rights, right? If that matters, that you can say, yeah, I read Plato and I read the Republic in my life, and I get it, and I get him, and I get things going on around me better than most. And that sure is a great one, no matter what. So, welcome to the Republic. Hardest book, one of the hardest books you could ever read, but also the most important one. We begin with book 1 in the next episode, so let's do it.